As you may know by now, Beast Wars is my favorite part of the Transformers franchise. Sure, the animation isn't that great and definitely doesn't hold up to today's standards, but even that was revolutionary at the time. The show introduced Transformers with actual problems in a non-episodic series. It brought in key elements that are still in use in the franchise today, and a lot of the characters are fan favorites. What many people don't know is that I personally don't like the third season. I think the first season of Beast Wars is a masterclass of Transformer show. The second season is kinda wishy-washy, but it does have one of the best episodes of all time. To me, season 3 just got too convoluted. That, and I really don't like the Transmetal 2 designs. Except for Optimus and Megatron, those guys rock. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy United Silverhawk. That's right, today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy United Tigerhawk. To begin, the painting and the sculpting on this figure is absolutely phenomenal. Unlike a lot of the other Beast Wars figures, it doesn't try and modernize or make the beast modes more realistic. This figure knows the design is just goofy as fuck and it plays into that very well. For starters, that head sculpt is absolutely gorgeous. I love that Transformers figures are getting more expression now, even if it is just the turtle face. I also really love the metallic purple they used for the head crest and the chest. It makes the purple more vibrant in an already awesome looking color scheme. Not only is the metallic purple absolutely stunning, but I love the asymmetry, which is a common theme throughout this figure. Surprisingly, the eyes have the little slit iris like they did in the cartoon. They didn't have to do that, but they went the extra mile and did that either though the visor covers it up. Speaking of the visor, I really love all the translucent green this guy has on him. You'll notice throughout this figure is the asymmetry. I'd say it's more noticeable on the upper body, but the lower body also has some of that. The rest of the sculpted detail on this guy is incredibly intricate. You have that beautiful Beast Wars mix of the more mechanical detail and the organic detail, such as one shoulder being a tiger head and the other one just being some armor bits. The only thing I'd change about this figure's colors is make these and these the same color. It might be because different colored plastics have different tolerances, but it still sticks out like a sore thumb. Especially when it comes to this area on the wing particularly. They're two completely different shades of brown, and I don't know why. Same thing goes for the legs. His hips are that bronze color, but his pelvis is a creamy color. As it stands, you can barely notice it. Despite their design, he articulates just fine. And his wingspan is absolutely massive. Because of the sheer busyness and awkwardness of the design, he does have a few hindrances. For me, a vanilla pose can say a lot more words than an action pose, but this guy just doesn't have it in him. There's a detent in his hip that makes the hip go automatically out that far. I guess you could call that a neutral stance, but it just doesn't look right. Other than that, the legs are perfectly fine, even with an amazing ankle rocker. But don't worry, cause that's not all I'm gonna bitch about in this segment. Because this guy's head articulation sucks fuck. He is a flying character, and therefore he should be able to look up. But he can only look up about that far. And he can't even look down that well without turning his head because of this little ridge and his chin sculpt. Which extra sucks because in almost every other direction the head can move very well. Before I move on to my final complaint, I do want to give this figure some compliments. As some of you may know, I hate the shoulder setup where the joint isn't in the shoulder but instead attached to the arm. So when you go to move the arm, the shoulder goes with it and it just doesn't look good, you can't get a lot of poses out of it, and overall it's just fucking trashy. Due to the transformation joints in his shoulder, Tigerhawk could have easily fallen victim to this. But I'm happy to say that Hasbro went the extra mile and put shoulder joints where they needed to be. When I talk about this feature, the best figure I can think of is Siege Optimus. When you lift the arm up, the armor plating moves with it. And that piece of engineering goes for both shoulders. Like I said, because of the transformation, there are hinges connecting the shoulder to the body. Basically, you get two shoulder joints, which makes this guy extremely dynamic. Now, to get into the biggest nitpick I have with this figure. For some ungodly reason, the hands don't have wrist swivels. I mean, like, yeah, I understand why, it is a fold-in hand, but that doesn't change the fact it could have had a swivel. Deluxe Class Animated Bumblebee has swivel hands. Tigerhawk, you were outdone by a figure a quarter of your size. The lack of a wrist swivel really sucks when we get into his accessories. For starters, we have these big handguns. And while they're pretty boring to look at with just the beige color and the exact same sculpt for both of them, you cannot deny that he looks like an absolute badass motherfucker with them in his hands. Seriously, they add so much to this figure's dynamic, it's insane. And they have some pretty ingenious storage. Keeping with the theme of really good storage, let's talk about his wing blades. Like Silverbolt before, or after him I guess in Legacy. I still don't have a Legacy Silverbolt. If somebody wants to give me one, please. Has feather swords. He has feather swords, or missiles if you want to use them like that. And while you can make him look extremely amazing and dynamic with them, it just would have been that much better with swivel wrists. Again, the head articulation just sucks. Sadly, all good things must come to an end, and I saved my favorite accessory for last. It's nothing too special, but I really love his wrist shooter. Like the shotguns before it, it is just pretty plain. But when you plug it into his forearm, it just gives this figure new life almost. I love when Transformers have simplistic and built-in weapons like this. It gives him an element of complete badassitude and unstoppableness. If only Hasbro didn't have shitty marketing decisions, maybe this guy could have been in Beast Machines. Maybe he would have made Beast Machines a good show! Okay, I highly doubt that, but still. And that's pretty much it for his Robo mode, so Tigerhawk, maximize! Let's talk about this piece for a second. It's a big pain in the ass. It likes to fall off the clip it's on, so I'm just gonna keep it off until I get him into his Tigerhawk mode. After a transformation that I can only describe as fucking painful, the Tigerhawk mode is actually really good. I don't mean good as in it's a great figure, I mean it's good in terms of beast modes. This design is such a messy bitch and such a mess to transform, I almost gave up on this review. You gotta force bits, under bits, over bits, almost through bits. The clearance for the stomach transformation isn't great at all. I really love how the back legs are asymmetrical. I'll give it points for being pretty accurate and honestly kinda fun. Being completely honest, this guy's transformation brings down this mode so much. At least it's pretty cool to flip the cannons out in their storage mode. And for the last thing on this mode, the face does have some really nice asymmetry going on. So let's just finally get this mode out of our lives and get into final thoughts. So, what are my final thoughts on this figure? This was easily one of my most anticipated figures of Legacy United. Tigatron and Airraiser are two of my favorite characters from Beast Wars, and while I would have preferred for them to just stay as themselves, Tigerhawk is still an absolute badass. His painted and sculpted detail is absolutely on point. His color scheme helps him pop out on a shelf, and his size is incredibly imposing. While some parts of his articulation do leave a bit to be desired, I can't say that it's not a good articulation scheme. If you're gonna get this figure though, just be warned, the head crest apparently can crack. Now, I'm not sure if I believe the person's story who told me that, but they did show some proof and evidence. I just hope his white plastic stands the test of time better than Tigatron did. If you're a fan of Transformers with cool designs, if you're a fan of Beast Wars, if you're a fan of Tigatron and Airraiser, you owe it to yourself to get this figure. If I had to say something, why did we get him before Depth Charge or Rampage? I guess we'll have to see what the future holds for those two. But for now, thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you haven't already and you want to, subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace! Now that it might be because different colored plastics have different color tolerances. The fuck does that even mean? What? What? Good fuck.